Hey, Joe.
I don't think they will. I'll jump them. I'll jump them. Jump 'em.
Good, how are you? Good. Hi.
I don't know.
I didn't, I thought that
About
when we
our,
first put it there,
it's
I didn't want to
very
explain
rare. Fill out that for the training.
it.
No. Yeah.
It has to be done every year. Reports there.
Remind me.
No, for the, it's, from Val. You just have to fill those out and mail them back to the auditor for the.
They're all. Oh, yeah. I think it's time. Everybody here.
It is.
Where's Dave Perry?
5:30.
5:31. Hurry up, Dave Perry. Come on. They show moving. Yes. Bibbo. What do you think?
Start where I.
Yeah.
I move the one.
Yeah.
Call this meeting to order, the Oak Hill City Council for June 12th, 5:30. Clerk will call the roll.
Mayor Daniel Wright,
Here.
Councilmember Diana Janey. Here. Krista Hodges. Here. David Perry.
Here.
Ward 2, Councilmember Stephen Hazlett,
Here.
Earl Smallwood,
Here.
and Benitez Jackson.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. The invocation tonight will be led by the Reverend Thomas Carver of the Life Bridge Assembly of God, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Charles Smallwood. Reverend Carver here. He's not. Councilwoman Janey, do you mind doing it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come here tonight and meet as citizens of Oak Hill. Lord, preside over our meeting, lead and guide us and direct us in all your ways. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a present. Before we begin with the presentation award, I think we should take a moment of silence and reflection upon the life and work of Thomas Oxley, who served the city as city manager twice and a city council person. And his memorial service was Sunday at the Oak Hill Baptist Church. So we'll take a moment of reflection and remembrance. Thank you. The presentation award for Patrolman First Class Aaron Radcliffe.
I'm going to read the incident that occurred that led to the presentation of this award. On April 16, 2023, Patrolman First Class Aaron Radcliffe of the Oak Hill Police Department was eating at El Bandito's Mexican restaurant. While PFC Aaron Radcliffe and Detective Sergeant J.M. Pack with the Fayette County Sheriff's Department were inside the restaurant eating, a man stood up and began to yell for help. PFC Aaron Radcliffe then walked over to assist this gentleman. PFC Aaron Radcliffe observed Michael Shively holding a toddler, Mr. Shively's son, and screaming for someone to help PFC Aaron Radcliffe. Observed the toddler choking, not breathing, and turning blue. PFC Aaron Radcliffe then asked Mr. Michael Shively to give him the toddler. PFC Aaron Radcliffe then took the toddler turned him face down in his right arm with the toddler's jawline in his right hand. PFC Aaron Ratcliffe, being the father of 4 children himself, began life-saving measures by taking his open hand and patting the toddler on the back between his shoulder blades. After the second pat from PFC Aaron Ratcliffe's hand, the toddler then regurgitated the food that was lodged in his airway and began to cry. PFC Aaron Ratcliffe then checked the toddler to confirm that there were no other obstructions in the airway and the toddler's breathing was not labored. After seeing the toddler was okay, PFC Aaron Ratcliffe then returned the toddler to his father. I would like to say that PFC Aaron Ratcliffe's fast-acting, fatherly, and professional reflexes kicked in and he saved someone's life that day. It is with great pride and gratitude from the parents of the toddler, myself, and the Oak Hill Police Department that I present Aaron Ratcliffe with the life-saving award.
Yeah, I think the picture of the chief and the presenters should be taken and this made available to the press. And he may have a comment he'd like to make. The chief or he. Speech. Assistant chief and the presenter.
Looks like
City
the minute is
managers are
gone.
always prepared. Hard looking bunch. That looks like a Southern Regional Jail mugshot.
I'll just say that probably, was about 3 weeks before that, Jancare ambulance came over, and probably Aaron already knew all this, being a father of 4, I would hope. But we all took training in CPR and just that thing also, about 3 weeks before that, so the whole department did, so we're proud of him for doing that and would expect any other member to do the same.
Good job.
This is the last regular meeting for Councilman Benitez Jackson, since he did not seek full term. Presented Benitez Jackson in appreciation for exemplary service to the city of Oak Hill, as city councilman, December 9, 2019, July 1st, 2023. Oak Hill, West Virginia, June 12, 2023.
Speech.
This one is for Tom Oxley. Senator Tom Oxley, in appreciation for exemplary service to the city of Oak Hill as city manager 1988 to 1998, and city manager December 2003 to December 2008. City councilman January 2009 to May 30, 2023. Oak Hill, West Virginia, June 12, 2023. And I think that the city manager is going to present that to the council.
Mayor, I think it'd be appropriate if city manager, former city manager Bill Hannibas would take a picture with you, since they had probably the longevity of serving with Tom. And maybe Diane, Janie, Councilman Janey. Thank you, Demeter. Councilman.
That was nice.
Councilman Jackson, do you have anything you want to say? Okay. In 4 years, I have voted twice to break a tie, and they both revolved around Benitez Jackson, both of them. We move to the reading and approval of the minutes. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move we accept the minutes as having been read and presented.
I'll second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Treasurer's report. Is there a motion regarding that?
I move that we accept the treasurer's report as having been presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Which moves us to correspondence. Madam Clerk.
No correspondence, sir.
Moves us to citizens' comments. Mr. Alshire.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak this afternoon. Just a couple of questions I'd like to ask, and I know I'll probably get some flack over this, but something I think the citizens ought to know, and I know it's water under the bridge anyway, but how many in this council, city manager, mayor included, was at the negotiation of the purchase of BB&T building? Now, I would go around and ask each and every one, but I'm afraid somebody's gonna say, we can't do that. I don't see any harm in doing it, so I'm gonna attempt to do it. Mr. Hazlett, was you at the meeting?
No, sir, I was not at the negotiation.
Mr. Jackson? Mr. Smallwood? Mr. Attorney, were you there at the, Mr. Mayor, were you at the meeting?
Yes.
Mr. City Manager? Ms. Clerk?
No, sir.
Mrs. Janey?
No, sir.
Mrs. Hoskins?
No.
Mr. Perry?
I would only say that there was a committee appointed. That committee met 5 times to negotiate. That's what I would say.
Okay,
In terms of out of order, our protocol calls for other, but I've answered your question.
And see, that's what the citizens are going to face for the next 3 years. Nobody wants to give an answer. Some do, some don't. There was nowhere in a motion made, nowhere in a motion, nowhere. We know who was supposed to be in on the negotiation. Bill Hannah-Bass, it was one of them, the mayor and the building commission. Never did take place. They did meet, like I told you before. Then all of a sudden, the negotiation come in. And I think it's unfair for the citizens of Oak Hill that you have 2 or 3 people that can go out and negotiate and put the city in debt for $1.5 million. And it's going to be above that now. I think you need to come up with a solution of some sort that wouldn't allow 1 or 2 people to go out and negotiate something that's for something. And that's where I feel about it. And you're talking about, well, what somebody said, something about what would that building look like in 3 or 4 years? Well, it's the council's fault if it started deteriorating because you've got a code to cover that. But no one wants to enforce the code like the one right above my house. The ACE has. Weeds growing out everywhere, blocks falling off, the roof is gone. But y'all don't want to upset ACE, a multi-million-dollar company or whatever they have. Nobody wants to approach them. So what? But you don't care about going down and tearing the buildings down at Minden, the taxpayers' money. So I know my time's about up. Mr. Jackson, enjoyed staying and talking with you on the council. May God bless you.
Mr. Willis?
Thank y'all for allowing me to speak. I'll be short and sweet about it. So, Mr. Jackson, you were there. I don't mean to point anybody out, but so the zoning board met and we found the lot, or they found the lot that I have up in town as non-conforming. And at this time, I'd like to ask for the city council or someone to present, like, if we can get that in writing, some type of letter that says that it was found non-conforming for future references, because we dealt with this 3 years ago and now, or 3.5 years ago. And then we dealt with it again, but I went through all the protocols. I went through everything. I mean, the only thing I'm saying is if there's some way that I can get something in writing from someone, I've asked a lot of people, but I'll be honest with you, this election's so nasty, you can't talk to anybody. So I'm just gonna come in front of council and I'm gonna ask y'all if somebody can put it in writing of what we found and what they did. So that way I don't have to get visitors every day.
Which property is it, Kevin?
The one on Main Street, the storage lot.
You should have received a letter from Mr. Harding. He sent that last week.
I did find a letter from there, but it had a correspondent on it that, which I did call PSC and I am in compliance with PSC, Bob Morris. They came back, they looked again, everything's good there. 911 centers came. So we're in compliance everywhere. It's just the only thing is for future reference. I mean, if that's sufficient enough, I mean, to me, it wasn't sufficient enough, that's what I'm saying.
Is it not on letterhead? Is it on Oak Hill City letterhead?
I'd have to look. Because
It
I
should
was
have
gonna say,
been.
I actually physically didn't see, I just knew that there was something at the bottom that was saying something about compliance. There was.
It said that you should check with the Public Service Commission to
To
make
be in
sure that you're in compliance with their rules.
Okay. And that'll
then-
stand, I mean.
Mayor, I
future
don't
reference-
see a lengthy discussion over this. The minutes from the committee or the group exist. The city manager had it in a report, and I see no reason why we would not include the committee's recommendation or the committee's unanimous vote and the comments that the city manager has in a report tonight as part of a record in tonight's meeting.
That's all I asked.
And I would move that
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 way-
be done.
Thank y'all for your time and good luck.
I would move that that be done.
For a second?
It's not on the agenda. How can we vote on something that's not on the agenda? It's just a letter.
It's just a letter, isn't it?
Just-
It's what you're
yeah.
asking for?
Uh-huh.
We would get a copy of the minutes from the planning
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
commission.
Yes, we can also give you copies of those minutes, Mr. Willis.
Yeah.
From that.
From
planning
the meeting?
Because what happened, we talked here that night, 4 years ago, it was settled then. And I brought that up that night and somewhere, thanks to Rhonda, she did a great deal of research. And what was done 4 years ago kind of got changed. And Mr. Moss questioned that, but I think, so that this doesn't get lost in translation, that these records be available and made available to Kevin. So I thank you. May I also say, since I've been asked a question, I have left, and this has been there before, an outline of what was done relevant to the bank and some of what's done. I look at it and I think there's 1, 2, just a minute. 3, 4, 5 different times that the issue of discussion and bank and transparency was made. And those are available over here for anyone that would like to have one. So they inform themselves, those that feel like they haven't been, but they're available on the desk.
I just picked them up this evening.
Huh?
On those forms on the excerpt from the minutes.
Oh, on you're talking about
Yes.
Kevin's. I'm talking about the questions about the bank and the transition committee and the committee and negotiations and the bond discussions and so forth. And Mr. Smallwood, I don't want to embarrass you, but I think you were in Charleston when we did talk with the attorney. I didn't see whether you said you were or you weren't. Thank you.
All right, this moves us to unfinished business. Number one, Thrasher report on contractor recommendation and award bid for park renovations. Madam City Manager.
Mr. Rich from Thrasher will give us a report on our bid opening last week for park renovations.
Thank you, Demita. So I come before you tonight with not great news, frustrating news, but we advertised this project for the first time on May 16th. Per West Virginia code, we did 2 consecutive weeks of class 2 legal ads to advertise to general contractors. The bids were due on June 9th at 3 p.m. here at City Hall, and we did not receive any bids from any contractors. We had a pre-bid for this project on May 23rd, where we had 5 general contractors as well as several suppliers show up and express interest in the project. I personally reached out to 18 general contractors that we have worked with on projects in the past that are both locally and regionally, and some is even as far away as Morgantown. There just didn't seem to be a ton of interest in the project. I think some of that was timing. There's a lot of projects out on the street right now. I think some of it's complexity for the size of project that it is. It's got building work, it's got site work, fencing, electrical. So it's been very difficult to get people interested in the project. We do have a couple local companies that reached out the day bids were due and, very, very near to when they were actually due. So we didn't have an opportunity to issue an addendum and extend the bids, but basically said if we re-advertise, they will submit bids. They're very interested in the project. And I think we're just going to have to continue to work the contractor scene and get people interested. We do plan to move ahead with the contract for the skate park, which was also part of the approved funds that this body voted on at the March meeting. We don't want to delay that any further because their backlog for their precast concrete crews is already in the next year, and we want to get that in place so that that part of the project will get on the schedule and move forward. As far as the schedule to re-advertise and solicit bids for the park renovation project, we plan to advertise that within either the next week or the following week, with allowing bids to be due after the July 4th holiday. And as I said, I mean, we've been having conversations with lots of GCs just to try to get people interested, and just a busy time in the contracting world. Lots of projects out there, and frustrating and unfortunate, and very disappointed we didn't even get one bid. So we'll continue to work on that. Obviously, we were on the agenda tonight to present bids to you, so I just wanted to be here to give an update on where we stand and kind of what our next steps are, and continue to work on moving this project forward. With that, I'll take any questions that this group has.
Mayor.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I yield to the gentle lady, to the manager.
Sam, we have moved our fire department bids until July 11th, so you may want to work around that date so that they won't be so close together.
Yeah, and I don't think, based off the bidders that showed up for that particular project, as well as the bids that were received on the bank building, I don't think we're going to have a ton of overlap. In fact, only one company that expressed any interest in the city park project, I believe, was at either of those pre-bids, or actually submitted a bid. I do think one potential strategy is, any bidders that were not successful on either of those projects, or ones that we want to target to see if they're potentially interested in the park project. It's, as I said, it's just it's a lot different from a discipline standpoint, having the site work and some of the other fencing related work outside of building contractors' normal realm of what they deal with. But certainly we don't want to do anything to jeopardize bids on the fire station either. So we'll make sure that those schedules are not conflicting as far as time commitments from contractors and bidders. Mr. Perry?
The city manager indicated the fire department bids were moved ahead. Why was that?
They were originally due on the 28th of June. And the contractors at the pre-bid asked if they could be moved to after the 4th of July holiday. So
What was their rationale?
because they have so many other projects going and just to have time to get through the holiday.
Okay. Sam, question, you said the skateboard park or the skateboard section would proceed, correct? Did I understand that?
Yes, sir.
So is that, do we have to vote or should we vote on that contract
So
tonight?
let me elaborate. So when we came before you all in March, we asked for a commitment of $1.8 million to be dedicated to the city park project. Part of that budget was the funding allocated for the skate park itself. So, you know, just, I'm under the impression that we have already been approved by this body to move forward, and Demita has the ability to execute that contract at any point, so long as we're still within the budget of what, you know, we presented to you all, which we
Do
are.
you agree, Demita?
I agree. That also is not a contract that we advertise for. They're a member of Sourcewell, and we are also a member of that, so we can enter into those contracts without doing the bid.
Okay, and I have make no mistake, I'm for it. I'm for the total completion of that park and always have been. And I think the committee's done a good job. How long did you advertise? You said 18, perhaps total of 18, either through advertisement or personal contact. How long was that advertisement?
Well, the ads only run 2 consecutive weeks. So, and that was
Each
that.
day?
Well, no, they don't run every single day of that period. There's classified ads are only run certain days. And I'd have to look at the specifics for the Registered Herald. That was where the publication took place. It's also posted on our website. It's sent to the Contractors Association of West Virginia. So it's not just about the Class 2 legal ad. That's more of a code requirement.
Right.
Really, what we tried to do to get it out in front of people is just call, email, you know, send the advertisement for bid, and it just,
So it did go to the Contractors Association.
that's, yes, all of our projects are shared with them.
And of course, you already answered my other question. Where did you advertise? You said nothing in the Charleston, is that?
No, I think it's something we should explore with the next round. I mean, we got lots of companies from Charleston that, you know, we sent it to anyway, but I think it will just broaden the,
If you did
The
a,
distribution a
not a
little bit.
short, what's required legally in terms of pre-bid conference and so forth, could that not be accomplished before July the 5th? Since you've already said you've had some who've indicated who are already out there waiting.
I think if our goal was just to make sure that we got a bid, then that would be possible. I think if we're wanting more than, you know, the ones who have told me that they're interested in bidding, if we re-advertise the bid, then trying, as they talked about with the fire station, trying to get that done before July 4th will be problematic. The code requirement is you have to advertise 2 consecutive weeks,
Right.
Class 2 legal ad.
Mhm.
You can have the pre-bid the afternoon of the second advertisement, or typically it's the day after. That's all you're required legally to do.
Mhm.
As far as when bids would be due after that pre-bid, we usually try to give them at least another 2 weeks so that it's a month-long bid process. Because just being transparent, nobody looks at those plans until the day of the pre-bid. So it's really 2 weeks. It's not 4 weeks. Given we've already advertised this once and there's companies that are familiar with the project, we could shorten the bid process, but I think that's just putting us in jeopardy of being right back here again, not receiving anything, given that holiday impending and how busy people are already.
I guess my concern is with what might be a change in council, that nothing can happen to keep this from occurring. And that's my concern. Of course, you know, be up to the city manager and the next council to see if this happens. And the other question I have, has the baseball season finished?
Yes.
Is it?
It finished this weekend.
And I remember early on praises to Day. He indicated he was willing to do some preliminary work, which would lower the costs, such as taking down fences and so forth. So he could proceed with that.
He could. The concern that I shared with city manager is, we need to get bids and a contract in place so the actual work can start this summer for us to be able to host Little League games next season. Now, the Little League president has told us before, if we have to
Move around.
move around, that is a possibility. And the site work for the field itself is not a time consuming process. It's the concession stand that will probably drag out through next season
But
because of electrical panels and things that we're seeing long lead times on.
Sam, I think we're on a different page. I was just asking that the work that Day had committed to, pulling the fences and so forth, would have nothing to do with the bid, and could he start now?
He could. What I was trying to say is, I would hate to see him tear those fields down and then us continue to struggle, get people to bid on this project. And then we don't have Little League fields next year for no reason.
But in the same verse, we've already said preliminary that they are willing to rotate other areas.
Correct.
I mean, I think
Correct.
the quicker we can move this project along and ensure that it occurs, the better the athletes and the association in town are going to benefit from it. And I don't know, Day, what's your opinion? Okay, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
Pardon, I'm sorry. So they would really be through this weekend. So after this weekend, there would be nothing to prohibit you from pulling the fences or something that you'd agreed to do so as to lower the cost. Right, well, again, I'll go back to what I said. Initially, the early discussion even for this season was that they were willing to rotate other areas. So that's something that could be worked out. But I would hope that we would proceed with as much as we can, as soon as we can. That would be my opinion for the 2 cents it may be
Well,
worth.
I think given we're gonna have to re-advertise and there's a time process associated with that, it also gives Day and his crews more time to get that work done. Doesn't all have to be done, within a week's time frame or whatever. So I think that helps them if you move forward with that. I'm also confident.
I'm sorry, I missed that last comment. You think
I
what?
think it helps them if they have more time for the demolition work that needs to take place. We're not trying to just cram it in, and obviously his crews have other things going on than just this
Right.
project.
And
So,
I'm not insisting, or I'm not saying that all should be done. I'm saying it should start.
Yeah.
Because actually, we're a year behind. If you recall. But anyway, that's just my comment. And I appreciate the work you've done. I appreciate the committee's work and the design you came up with. I commend you for that. But I think we need to move it ahead as fast or as quick and as efficient as we can move.
The Little League also may play fall ball. So they may need those fields for practice. I'm not sure. We'd have to check with them.
But again, I'll back up and say, we heard from Brad that they are willing to accommodate or to not use that field under construction. And then they could move to other locations and other fields to make it happen. So again, I'm not debating with the meeting. I'm just saying, hey, that's already been discussed. It was agreed to, settled, and was an option that had been made available that they were willing to work with. But other than that, that's just,
All right.
Can I ask a question? Day, would it take that long to take the fences down? I mean, do you need that much time?
there you
I
No,
just
no, we don't
hate
wanna
to
do that.
see it. I just hate to see it torn apart and we don't have anything in place and it just it'd be unsightly. I mean, the ballpark's
Well,
been there. a
once we
long
get
time.
bids, I don't see the harm in running one more bid cycle and wait. And then if we don't get the bids, then start on.
Well, good luck, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
You had a question?
No, no.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think that we should run one more bid cycle and then take it from there.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Moves to number 2, determine funding for municipal building, Madam Manager.
Okay, we did open the bids this afternoon for the municipal building, and Joe Bird will tell us more about that. I want to talk about the funding for that because we should have some kind of funding in place before we approve a contract or contractor. So the low bid was $2,221,000. And we have about $800,000 in the building commission account. So we would need to have 1.4 million in order to pay the contract, pay for that, for the renovations on that building. We have in our rainy day fund, we have 905,000 approximately. That changes due to the market. So we lost a lot last year, but that's picked back up some. So we have about that in there. And then in July, we'll have close to $1 million in our sales tax. So those two things are available. Of course, that would take everything that we have in those accounts. Another option is to issue bonds on the building for the renovations. We could do that I talked to Pendleton Community Bank today. They said they are willing to work with us on that and issue those bonds. They are the ones, they have to approve it since they're holding the bonds on it now. So we could do that for about the same payment that we have on the building now. So it'd be around $5,500 to $6,000 a month if we issue bonds.
For how many years?
15, that's what we did. And we
Okay.
can look at other options also, but that is a 15-year term. And those are rough estimates on that, on the terms, or on the amounts. The rates did go up some, so we're not going to have that good rate, like a good rate like we did before.
Is there a penalty for payoff?
There's,
If at some point,
there is no penalty for
so
payoff.
it could be paid off if monies came in or grants or so forth.
Yes,
And,
yes,
and it would be a savings, but there's no penalty.
right. There's no penalty.
Now, I would only say this, because I've been in favor of it from the beginning, I remain in favor of it. And I don't apologize to anyone for that. The initial was that it could be moved in as is, that there would be very little cleanup and very little would have to take place to occupy it. And I know that a lot of discussions with the city manager and even the committee was to make it turnkey ready, first class, where you didn't have to go in piecemealing doing anything. And a number of changes, which Mr. Chapman can address those shortly, have occurred as a result to achieve the objective, which increased the cost. Of course, the market changes too. So maybe at his appropriate time, he could tell us, we, of course, always said we were going to do the council chambers. There was security put in. Last time we talked, I think it was a question as to whether we would or would not redo the heat system. It wasn't necessary, but it was recommended. And the flooring, desks, that instead of cubicles, offices would be installed, if I'm correct on what I would say is the first floor. So if Joe could acquaint us with with recommendations apart from the standing building, I'd like to hear that.
Just one second. You need a motion for that? You have it down there.
We'll have to,
Okay, get it
before we
later.
do before we award that.
So number two, there's a motion for that,
We'll need
We'll
one.
need
but not
one,
yet.
but not yet.
Not to get the three.
Well, and I guess he's gonna explain some things from us.
All right.
Start out, just want to echo some of the things that Sam said. I mean, the construction business is very unique, right? And it all started as a lot of things did with COVID. Remember, we had toilet paper shortages. And we started having supply chain issues. You used to hear that term a lot, supply chain issues. And it really impacted the construction industry, and that hasn't changed much. What has changed is which part of the construction industry is being affected now. For a long time, it was electrical equipment, and it still is to some extent, but that has lessened. But you hear it talk from masons, that it's hard to get materials, it's hard to get laborers. It's just a really tough time. And on top of that, Sam said, contractors are really busy. So it doesn't surprise me that he had no bidders on that project. I feel fortunate that we had 5 bidders on this project. I think it speaks to the fact that this project is a good project for contractors, and that, number one, it's indoors. And there's not a lot of different trades, not site contractors, not sewer line contractors and all that. It's pretty well general construction. So I think that really helped create a lot of interest. I wanted to speak a little bit about what you mentioned, the move-in condition of the building. And from the beginning of this project, we wanted to take that idea as far as we can. And so we looked at the second floor, for example, which has a lot of offices, and said, let's do as little as we need to do to make that move-in condition. We looked at things like the HVAC equipment. And we are reusing what's there. There's 2 main air handlers that are being reused. We did come back in and try to supplement that to give you a little bit more control over the heating and cooling on all 3 floors. So that's what we did, is to supplement it, but we're reusing what we can. The first floor with, it's a beautiful space, and we wanted to try to maintain that and not just go in and gut it and redo it, which from a designer's point of view would have been the easy thing to do. Is just gut the second floor, gut the first floor, and just design it the way it needs to be. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to respect the dollars of the city. So that's what we tried to do. I had a thought talking about move-in condition, because it was the bank building in move-in condition. Yes and no. Primarily no. But if you were to imagine, okay, if something happened to this building, maybe it was a fire and you had to move out and you had to find a space to move into it. Yeah, you could move people into the second floor of the bank building as is. You'd have to do some cleaning and take care of some code issues that definitely need to be taken care of. You might be able to move people in on the first floor. The ground floor, absolutely not. Just couldn't do it. Even if you did that, it would be extremely inefficient. So what we've tried to do with the redesign of this building is provide you guys with efficient spaces that you can use and make it better than what you have here. And that's the overall goal. So that's what we tried to do. And again, trying to respect the dollars of the city in doing that. So we opened bids today. We had Dan Hill Construction as the low bidder at $2,221,000. The high bidder was a company called SQP Construction at $2,925,000. The rest of the bids were within 10% of that low bid. And what that tells me is that the 4 lowest bidders were all looking at the same project. Obviously they were, but they didn't see anything unusual. It tells me that the low bid price is as good as it's going to get, given this construction industry volatility that we have. I'm really pleased with the bids that we have. Our recommendation pending funding would be to award a contract to Dan Hill and get the project going.
Because
He's
the
also
ground
local.
floor primary is being gutted and the council chambers moved there along with the mayor's office, correct?
That's correct. And one of the things, just to give you more background and when we first started this project, there was a thought that, okay, the council chambers and we're going to reuse this desk. And you know, you could have redesigned that and try to save or spend some more money building new ones. We want to save a little bit of money. Plus this has special meaning to the city. So we wanted to move this. And we looked at whether or not this would go on the first floor. The thought was maybe we could do less work on the ground floor. We tried and tried and tried to get this room to fit on the first floor. It wouldn't do it. The only place it really made sense was the ground floor, which had to be gutted, which would have to be gutted anyway. It was just not in very good condition. So we looked at doing that on the ground floor, and that really makes the most sense as far as function of people coming to council meetings and the function of on a day-to-day basis of the city on the first floor and the second. Did I answer your question?
That answers it. Has it not been represented to you that we want to drive the Cadillac and not the Volkswagen in terms of the renovation?
I don't know in terms of that. We want to make it, our charge, I think, was to provide a good, functioning, efficient, secure office space without going overboard.
And there'll be additional offices on the first meeting. Rather than cubicles, there'll be office space, security system, reception area, so
Yeah.
that would have been open space had you not done that, correct?
Yeah, one of the challenges is the first floor, you walk into that and you think, oh, this is beautiful. We can just move in. But there's no way to control public access. And so we had to figure out a way to create a lobby within that space to control public access and provide the security that you need nowadays. And still provide people with the office space and the workspaces that they need, because the function of the city is different than a function of a bank. You can't have people functioning in bank teller windows in a city. So we had to figure all that out. That's what drove the design.
Thank you, and I appreciate you being here tonight. And I compliment Chapman's efficiency and quickness, not quickness necessarily, but you've undertaken the project.
Thank you. Other
So-
questions?
Yeah, yes, sir. Is there any part of those projects that the city workers could perform? I know in some of the transition meetings, it was mentioned that like some of the concrete work or something like that.
Well, so again, and then this is out of respect for city's dollars. We looked at those things, and the fact there are some things on the outside of the building that need to be done that we did not include in the construction contract that city people could do.
Okay.
There's furnishings and the what are they called? Safe deposit boxes, which is no small job. Get those out. We could have paid the contractor to do it. City's going to do that. So they're doing what they can, but there's some things you want the contractor.
I also remember Day suggested an excellent idea, unlike what the architect said in terms of the float bank,
Right.
which is safe as well.
Yeah, we were looking at ways to do the site and make it more accessible, and the idea now is just to kind of take that walkway away that's crumbling and it's not really needed. So
And actually, it'll be pretty.
it's a good idea.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
And how we go from turnkey to 2 million, what makes the figure so high?
That's, and I don't know what you mean by turnkey.
Well, that's what we were led to believe, that we could, they could take over the building as is, but now we're up to 2 million.
Yeah, and again, it's just a matter of providing the proper functioning and efficient office space for the city. And there are things that need to be done, and maybe that wasn't anticipated, but there are things that do need to be done. Some of it is life safety code related, that you have to do certain things. Some of it's security, some of it is just providing the proper spaces for people to work.
Just a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Was the elevator part of that?
The elevator is under a separate contract. The elevator is functioning. There are some things that need to be done to it, but it's not a major part.
I know one of the issues has been mold. If anyone would like a copy of the scientific mold analysis that was done prior to, it's over here.
Asbestos,
No, mold,
mold, okay.
mold. And there were 3 firms contacted. And of the 3, a firm out of Beckley did it and there's no black mold in there, as has been said.
Yeah.
And if anyone would like again to see the report, it's over here.
And that's another thing is that
If you
there
can
is,
interpret it.
there is
there
asbestos in the building, and that's part of this contract is to abate the asbestos. So that's part of it. Other questions?
Lamita, back to number 2, what do you suggest? I agree, we should not touch the rainy day fund. I personally don't think we should. And in terms of paying for it, where's the money coming from? An entire council, not necessarily for this, voted for the 1% tax, which originally it was suggested it would bring in about 900,000. You're saying possibly $1 million, and I've been doing some figure myself. It appears that if it comes in late, it will be over $1 million. But what would you suggest as a process? And you said the payment's $5,000 a month, right?
5,500.
And a lot of people rent a home for $1,200.
I think that we could issue the bonds and use the sales tax to make the payments as we are doing now.
Yeah.
On that. on
So
the
you need a
bill.
motion to do what?
We'll have to go through that whole process of issuing bonds
But I mean,
that we
tonight,
did before to do that, to start that process. If that's what council wants to do.
well, I move
that
that
would
we
be-
authorize you to begin the process as per bonding. And will the bonding cover it all, or you'll need part of does this,
We
the
could-
money from the sales tax work until the bonds are sold? I guess what I'm asking.
Well, yeah, it would depend on when construction starts and how
So
fast they start drawing some money.
once the bonds are issued, the bonds then would fund the payment.
Well, yes, they would fund the payment to the
So,
contractors.
again, I move that we authorize the city manager to begin negotiations on the sale of the bonds and use the other money as a supplement until such times that the bonds are secured.
All right, you've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Property moved and seconded. This number 2, I take it.
This
Yeah.
is number 2.
Is there any discussion?
Demita, what if we were to take some of the 1% sale tax money now and just pay off the initial purchase?
How much is that?
That's we owe 1.4 million on it.
Well, but if the initial purchase price of the bank, 675.
Oh, the
and we Pay that
675.
down. How would that affect the bonds?
It would be better to pay that much on the bill, on the actual construction because our rate is lower on the
On
the
the-
initial bond.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
No,
Motion's agreed to. Which now go to number 3, the contractor recommendation to award the bid to Dan Hill Construction, which is a Fayette County company down at Falls View, Golly Bridge. Any motion there?
Mayor, I move that the contract be awarded to Dan Hill as opened by the city manager and Chapman and as recommended by Chapman. And would note that it's 1.1 million as compared to 1.9 something, which was the high bid, 1.2.
2.2.
2.2. Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. So I move we award the bid.
For a second,
I'll second.
property moved and seconded. We award the bid to Dan Hill Construction. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion,
No,
the motion is agreed to. Which now moves us to number 4, consideration to appoint a prosecutor for municipal court. Madam City Manager.
Ron Parsons, who has been our prosecutor since 2012, I believe, has sent in his letter of resignation, and it was effective May 31st. And I think we have a copy of that letter. So he needs replaced to work in the court system, and I need y'all's direction on how you want to handle that. Do you
Mayor,
want-
I would move that you appoint a committee, or if the entire council would like to be part of that appointed committee, to have the city manager advertise for 5 days. Is that what we do normally, the meeting, or 3?
Who usually hires? Whatever.
city man, I mean,
the prosecutor Council appoints the city manager.
3 days.
I've been doing
prosecutor.
3. I would do a prosecutor a little longer, I think.
So I would move that that the mayor appoint a committee, unless council would rather do an entire interview of everyone, to advertise, interview, and recommend to the council, the next prosecutor. And that be completed. If you advertise 5 days, that would be what? What's the timeline on that? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
How long do we usually advertise?
3.
3?
I think sometimes, Councilman, it hasn't even been advertised.
If we do it every day next week, or we could do it for a couple weeks,
I would only,
twice a week for a
I'd
couple
say
weeks.
5 days. My motion is 5 days.
how do you advertise? I mean,
In the news, in the Beckley paper.
Are we gonna
And we
advertise?
put it in some, I guess, out on social media and some of those.
It gets on social media.
Are we
it
gonna
twisted.
advertise was Brian part-time
He
or
was
hourly?
He was part-time.
So should we not advertise? Maybe this is better as an hourly position instead of a part-time position?
I would like to do that as a contract position instead of an employee, like Mr. Parsons was on our payroll. And the position has substantially changed since that, since Mr. Parsons was hired. He was at court twice or every week, and now it's only twice a month. It's every other week. So he's spending about, what did you say, 3 hours of
3 hours.
3 hours every 2 weeks, so 6 hours a month.
It's a lot cheaper than a part-time.
Times $400 an hour is the going rate for an attorney out of Charleston, correct?
Well, I don't know. The ones we have been charging 175 or 200.
You've been getting a deal.
That would-
How much do we pay him part-time? But we don't pay him hourly now, do we?
We were paying him salary, and it was about 21,000 a year, I
About
think.
1,200 a month, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
I personally think you get what you pay for. And I think an attorney, maybe Ms. Fowle will agree with me. I can't get anybody else to agree with me, but, an attorney, as I said, if you go to Charleston and even around here, unless you get a special deal, you're going to pay $300 to $400 an hour.
I agree. The more you pay, I approve.
And we've talked about, the chief mentions the hours in court. That doesn't account for hours of preparation and so forth. And there's nothing to say that we wouldn't go back to 2 times a month or a week or what'd you say? Now we're 1 time what?
Every other week, or every week. They went every other week.
And as I understand some early discussions that we had early on, that actually the prosecutor wasn't prosecuting things that should have been prosecuted, or was delaying, like building, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
And I think, I just say advertise it, salary negotiable. And again, a committee, advertise it for 5 days. Come back and set an interview time and it be recommended to council.
You know, I would recommend that you all work with your municipal judge to determine how much time is needed, whether there's a backlog. Because he or she and the prosecutor need to work closely together.
Well, there's some discussion that he may consider retirement. That hadn't been decided, and he's been there a number of years. But again, I think we need to move forward with it so that the backlog may not occur as we presently exist. But that's my motion. 5 days, advertise, committee interview, and recommend to the council who will approve or disapprove as per the charter. Right. Is that not dangerous? So maybe we don't
Thank you,
need a
Chief.
prosecutor period.
I'll do it for 175 an hour.
I'm available as a paralegal.
I'll cut y'all a break, 100.
Mayor, you've heard my motion.
Yes, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Properly moved and seconded. Let me get this clear. A part of that motion, Mr. Perry, you're saying this committee, how is it to be structured? I don't know if I heard that part.
Well, I said the mayor would appoint and or if the council wants to do it as a whole. Since there seems to be some discussion about whether you can do committees or whether committees are prudent and a way to go. Where some have said a committee is the design of a camel, but anyway. So it's and or, in other words, if there's a council member who absolutely wants to be part of that interview committee, let them be. If they don't, then composition, I think should be up to you. I think the chief of police should be involved, or his assistant, council, and yourself. Membership, I don't know. When I said I don't know, I'd have a recommendation, but.
All right.
You'd be on there, wouldn't you? I would think so.
And perhaps if he's willing, and I don't know whether that would be an ethic conflict or not, Mr. Fowle could be part of that. That may, since he's the city attorney. Huh?
I'd be glad to do that.
Okay, so I'd say I'd like to hear in this discussion after the motion, is there a councilman that wants to be on that committee? So Mayor, I'd leave that up to you. But I would say the mayor, Mr. Fowle, chief of police, and 2 councilmen. Did that include you, Demita? And the city manager? How many is that? Don't want to get an even number. Heaven forbid if we have a tie.
The question was what was hired, what was the procedure?
I think maybe the chief recommended or somebody recommended and council voted on it. Mhm.
I think again, since we talk about transparency and we talk about citizen involvement and citizen awareness, the wholesome way on employment is to advertise, interview. I know we're not, but I'm saying I don't know any business that doesn't advertise the interview and so forth. And again, that's my motion. There was a second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion is agreed to. We move to number 5. I do have a question. Madam City Manager, a few weeks ago, you made a comment at a committee meeting that the state legislature or an opinion of the courts have said that the municipal court cannot be in the police station. And that you were looking as to where we're going to move it. Is that true, or is that or was that just being discussed, or do you have any idea about that, Mr. Fowle?
I'm not aware of a formal opinion there.
All right.
I do know a lot of cities now, when they have the opportunity to relocate their police court away from the police station in order to give an appearance of, yes, more fairness without bringing somebody into the police station. I don't know, Demita may have something she wants to add to that, but I'm not aware of a formal opinion.
Me either. Other than that, it's a good practice not to have it together.
So would this facility be considered for that?
The chief has thought about using this room for the courtroom.
Right.
We haven't made any decisions on that. That was
Could-
just,
Could it
that's
also?
just us talking.
I understand, appreciate that. Look, that's foresight. Could, the new chambers be used, or is that a concept? Which would you
That-
prefer, chief?
I think, you know, if it lines up, we're gonna have this facility that we're gonna maintain.
Mhm.
Yes. Different, that this would be an ideal location to move that out and probably an opportune time to do that if that's what.
You certainly have an ante room and a sequester room and all that kind of stuff to get to that. But that's yet to be decided, right?
Moves us to new business, number 5, the coal severance budget revision.
This is just the end of year revision for the coal severance fund. We had estimated that our coal severance tax would be 20,000. And it actually, we received a little bit over 39,000. So we need to revise that, and we just increased the street department expenditures by the same amount.
So the total amount goes to the street department.
Yes, we always use our coal severance fund for the street department.
So I'll make a motion that we do what you need done right there.
Oh, thank you.
Properly moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing now, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Number 6, the general fund budget revision.
This is a revision for the revenues. This is also our end of year revision. Our revenues are increased by a total of, will you come down there? I forgot to bring my paper, $271,500. And then our expenditures by the same amount. Yeah. I think there it is. Well, do y'all want me to go over them line by line? Where it
I don't know if
changed?
that's necessary.
There's nothing major on those. We had 100,000 in contingencies. I just took that out and redistributed.
I move we
The
accept the
funding.
general fund budget revision as presented.
For a second,
I'll second.
properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing now, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Number 7, set the bond for the election recount.
I move we accept the recommendation of the city manager of $300 for a recount.
I'll second it.
Properly moved and seconded.
With that done, I have a question. What is the county bond for a recount?
I do not know. I don't know what that amount is.
I'll stay with my recommendation, your recommendation. Is this what's been done in the past?
That's what we
300?
have.
Is this normal, what you do? Okay.
Yes, and we've never, I mean, so far, we've never had a recount, but this is in the instance that we would be asked for a recount, that will set the bond, because the person that asked for the recount has to pay for all the expenses. And if it changes the results of the election, then the city has to pay for that. But if it does not change, then the person requesting the recount
And it's
does.
my understanding also in a recount, if, let's just hypothetical A asks for a recount and they go ahead, then they can ask that it be stopped. And if the person who is being ousted, so to speak, wants to continue, then they have to
They have
pay
to pay.
also.
Yes.
What if the cost exceeds $300?
Then they have to pay the rest of it.
The person
The
requesting.
person
the recount.
requesting it, yes. So let's hope that doesn't happen.
Yes. I saw in Raleigh County, Mr. File, a few years ago, a man over there lost by 3,000 votes, but he demanded a recount, posted the bond. My gosh, 3,000
Well,
votes.
If he went ahead and stopped, it's up to the
I
next.
couldn't believe it's 3,000 votes he lost by and still that wanted the recount. Any more discussion? Here now we vote to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Number 8, Planning Commission recommendation to approve the rezoning to B2 to allow the existing building to be torn down and moved over and a new station and subway be built.
So this is at the Exxon station in East End. They are going
Shell
to,
station.
or the Shell station, I'm sorry, the Shell station. It's the other one that's Exxon. So they are going to tear that facility down and rebuild a new one with a subway. And there's one part of that that needs to be rezoned to B2,
That little yellow
the
part
little
there.
yellow part there.
No,
Are
that's
they
across from
are they
it.
tearing the whole gas station down?
Yes.
The whole thing?
Was it you that was telling me about that, or was that? I think they're tearing the whole thing down and the tanks. They're
Yeah, they're gonna move
moving the
everything.
tanks.
Yeah.
So the majority,
Oh. I'm sorry.
the majority of this property is already zone B2.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So I move that we approve the recommendation to rezone B2 to allow the existing building to be torn down and moved over and a new station subway be built,
I'll second.
which is progress from the city of Oak Hill. With that motion, and once I get a second, I have a question as usual. Oh, we got a second.
I
I'm
got a
sorry.
second. Mhm.
So there will be B&O or taxes from the construction costs, right?
Yes.
Do we have an estimate on that?
Wow.
Thank you. Thank you. So I moved the previous question.
Question's been moved.
Now, the other question, is, will he receive the benefit of the 5% B&O tax? We talked about new construction and existing construction.
Yes,
It's a 10, is he aware of that?
probably not, no.
Would you mind
Well-
sharing that tonight for the gentleman to meet,
You'll
please?
receive a 50% tax break for 5 years.
Thank you, 5 years
Yes.
on B&O. We
And-
encourage what you're doing.
And we'll work with you through that also.
All right, the question's been called. We'll now vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Number 9, 6-month intergovernmental agreement with Fayette County.
This is the agreement that we have with the Fayette County Commission for them to provide inspection services for our buildings and the building permits that we process. I would like to have this only for 6 months. If the county commission will approve it, which we will have to wait and find out. But that will give us time for the code enforcement officer that we have to get up to speed on, get himself acclimated, and then he will be able to provide those building inspection services.
Building inspector, not a code enforcement.
Well, he's
I mean, he's
also,
responsible for those areas, but I'm saying the
Yes.
official title is building inspector.
yes. So he'll be able to do that.
So 6 months, or once we do, it's already done, the person's been hired, correct?
Yes,
And you did the interviews,
yes,
and you are 100% satisfied with your with your hire.
yes.
and he has all the credentials that you were looking for in terms of
Ye-
or
Yes,
is
except
certified.
he has another step to take before that he will be certified with the inspections. But the fire marshal's office will grant him a temporary license to be able to do the inspections while he is obtaining his certification.
And his,
He has part of the certification now, but well, he has a part that goes with that. He wouldn't have to have that certification,
and
but
his years in service in the same capacity as what? Amount of time he's
What?
been in the job, other place,
oh, I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I'm sorry.
but
I
it's a
can't
number of
remember.
years.
Yes, he's well qualified for the position. And also I heard today, I think that the inspector now, Mr. Ballard, is going to retire from there. So this is a good time to make the change.
And he's coming from a city larger than Oak Hill, correct?
Yes. yes.
Princeton.
He's coming from Princeton, yes.
And do you mind sharing that name since he's been hired with us
Oh,
tonight and tell us
yeah,
when he
and
would
he's
start?
Given his notice. So his name is Ben Love and he will start on June 26th.
Princeton is smaller than Oak Hill by 3,000,
Is it? Apologize again.
5,000 people compared to
It's the second time
8,500.
I've been wrong this year.
Yeah.
So you need a motion to go for that?
To renew this for a 6-month period.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion?
so we actually will gain money by hiring the person because now we pay the county, correct?
Yes, and they rebate 50% back to us.
And they get a fee off of every,
Yes, so we send them the money, they assess their cost that's associated with the inspections, and then the remainder, we get 50% of that and they keep 50%.
so after this, we'd be getting 100%.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think Ben Love is an excellent choice. I've known him since he was just a little fella because he same age as my son, and they used to run together when they were little all the way up through high school. So I think Ben is an excellent choice, and he's a graduate of Mountain State University, I believe. I think he's Mountain State University, and I don't know where else he's gone after that, but Ben is married, has 2 little girls, and he lives in this area, so he was going to have to drive as far going to Princeton, that's for sure. All right,
I think he also worked for Homeland Security
He
in
did.
Charleston. for a while.
he did work for Homeland
Demetra,
Security.
did you have any pressure from anyone relevant to your hire?
No, I did not.
Thank you.
I talked to Ben a few months, well, it's been several months ago, about another job, and he was not a good fit for that position, but I thought that he would be a good position for this type of work.
We don't want to read it on Facebook tomorrow.
All right, I see, we've already had a motion in a second, I think. All right, we'll vote to motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. We now move to number 10, consideration to adopt the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code.
So in that same folder, there's a little reasoning of what we should, how adopting the code will benefit us. And can you make that a little bigger? I can't see it. Adoption of this code is an important step that a community can take to establish minimum requirements and standards for premises, structures, equipment, and facilities to ensure public health, safety, and welfare of the community and its residents. It's an all-inclusive code that works in conjunction with the residential code and the International Building Code, and lays groundwork for all the other ICC codes, including citation authority, authority for condemnation of unsafe structures, authority for closing of vacant structures, authority to disconnect utilities, to abate violations, and to recoup the cost of those things. In addition, it lays out the precise requirements for notices of violation, notice of condemnation, and method of service for both. So that will, this will allow us, it'll help us with our demolition program and then some of the steps that we go through for that. So I would recommend that we adopt this code.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion. We adopt the
Is
code.
there a second?
I'll second it.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion's agreed to. Number 11, resolution to dissolve Main Street TIF district.
This is a request from the county commission who established this TIF district for Plateau Medical Center. And there was no debt associated with this TIF district. They changed their mind, I think, after it got started. And so now that Plateau Medical Center is nonprofit, there is no increment financing. I mean, there's no increment in the property tax because they're not paying it anymore. So this resolution, and the resolution should be in there. This is the resolution to dissolve the district and authorize the use for, we have to enter into some discussions about the use of the money, but so far the county is fine with what we've been using money that we've received from those taxes in the district, and we will continue to do that until the money is gone, which won't be very long because we won't be getting any more.
Can we
And
keep
I
this
think the resolution is in
Go
there
on.
too.
Who's gonna pay? What was your question? Did you have a question?
No, Steve had a question.
Oh, Steve.
What was your question?
It
Can we
was-
keep the TIF district going without Plateau?
Well, but there won't be any more money in it.
So the TIF district was just strictly based off of what monies they got.
Their
off of
property
Plateau?
tax, the difference in their property taxes, yes. I put it under that. I'm not sure either.
I may have missed this one. How
It
much
is a
tip
risk.
money is it?
Uh,
Anticipate.
Well, right now in the account, there's about 40,000. And then there will be because when we first started getting money, we didn't know what was going on. So that's in the general fund. So the general fund owes the TIF about, it's over 100,000. So we still have that, and we're using that money for the assessments. Well, we paid Chapman out of that money for doing the building design guidelines. And we have the program in effect that we will pay half of an engineering assessment for the buildings. And then whatever else that we can do to help Main Street, to help the owners on Main Street is what
And-
we're going to
And
do.
the
with
building
that.
was what Allison presented the last time.
Yes.
For a
yes.
non-use or use building that a buyer would have already a picture of what he could do or would be responsible for.
Yes, so Chapman would come in, look at the building and let the owner know what needs to be done, and it will help them. It helps the seller and the buyer.
Now I move, we resolve the Main Street TIF district.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Properly moved and second. Any more discussion? Hearing now, we vote the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The motion is agreed to, which brings us down to number 12, consideration to approve the school resource officer contract.
This is the contract with the Fayette County Board of Education. We have an officer that works there during the school year. And the board will reimburse us for his salary for I think it now is at 200 days. And it is. Where's Valerie? Is she here?
She's there.
Oh, do you remember how much I told you this was? 70,000. I thought we put it in there, but I'm not seeing it.
But either way, we get reimbursed for it.
We get reimbursed, yes.
I move we accept and approve the school resource officer contract with Fayette County Board of Education contingent upon the reimbursement for 200 days.
I'll second.
Properly moved and second. Any more discussion?
I have a question to the chief. Will the same person occupy this position? Right, I understand.
$60,415.
Again, I commend the chief. I remember when I was at Collins, I think I first gave you the application. We tried to get it way back when. And as a city, as a council, I don't think anything we can do to help send the message that we're trying to protect our children. And I understand Jack has done an excellent job and built a lot of rapport with those folks out there. And it's a national trend that's occurring and needs to, so that's why I make the motion, recognize the importance and significance.
This is only for one school, isn't it? Oak Hill High School,
This is for
Middle
the
school. Middle school.
middle. There's one. But that's a sheriff, isn't it? That one. Oh, okay.
Has there been any discussion about possible?
There has been. They were going to put it in the budget last year.
Happening?
They're going to put one at every.
Okay.
Not in this year, not in the budget this year, to your knowledge. Thank you.
All right. It's been properly moved and second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those who are opposed, no. The motion's agreed to, which brings us to department reports. You have your report from the police department. Any questions from that report for the chief?
I would only say more of your officers are doing the community relation thing. Thank you. It sounds silly, but, and the other thing, I saw the assistant chief on the street today profiling. So, you know, we asked for that way back in January about when I was first appointed that. And I know weather's a factor, but with warm weather. Assistant Chief Morrison, thank you. Get some other guys there, you'll be heading in the right direction over the summer. I missed that. What was that? Oh. Regardless of the reason. Regardless of the reason, he was profiling and seen on the street as a police officer. Good job, Shannon. Keep it up. Get the chief to walk with you the next time. I wasn't gonna say that, chief. See, you blew it.
He gets two things done at once then. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there you go.
Mhm. Yeah, multitasker. Which now you've seen the fire department report. Is there any questions from that report for the chief?
I didn't see a report. I'm sorry. I didn't get it in my package.
I didn't get it till late, but it is on.
Oh, okay. I don't see it.
Well, do you have any questions for the chief then?
Well, if I recall, when we used to do the reports verbally, it was approved to give them in writing so long as we would have it prior to the meeting, which not to make an issue, but it'd be nice to have these things prior to look at in case you did have some questions. So that's just a comment. I got the street, I got the meters, I got fire,
Right there.
enforcement officer. That's fine. No I don't have any questions. I think Sam answered the questions about the new construction and bidding it.
All right, the city manager report. Any questions from her report? Right here. All right, MS4.
I do have something. So I know we talk a lot about an illicit discharge, so I'm going to tell you what that is tonight. An illicit discharge is any discharge into the city's storm sewer system that is not composed entirely of stormwater or uncontaminated groundwater. Such discharges are considered illicit because the storm sewer system is not designed to accept, process, or discharge such non-stormwater waste or contaminants. Illicit discharges include dumping of motor vehicle fluids, household hazardous waste, paint, grass clippings, leaf litter, or animal waste. The illicit discharge may be a deliberate discharge or runoff from a contaminated site. It must be stopped in order to ensure that our stormwater discharges do not pollute the waters of the state. And come back next month and I will tell you what the signs of an illicit discharge are. And also we had an illicit discharge over the weekend that made our creek very milky. Some cleaning, a business had some their floors cleaned, and that company came outside, dumped their cleaning materials on the parking lot, went into the storm sewer, and killed fish in our streams. So that is, I mean, it's a real concern, and
Did they
so
get
we
fined
need,
for that?
I do not know if they have gotten fined or not. The DP was here, the DNR was here, so we've had
I mean, do we have grounds for that?
all that we wouldn't be the one that fines for that, the DNR. But the home company was notified. They came in and helped some with it, and with the rain, it has cleared it out somewhat.
I feel so much better now since I know about illicit.
Since you know what it
discharges.
is.
Yeah. Sounds like you've been to the doctor or something. doesn't it? All right, let's now move to the Director of Economic Development, Ms. Abara. She here?
Yes.
Yep.
She is here.
Oh. Any questions? Okay, any questions for her from her report? The code enforcement? Any questions from that?
I have a question on the code enforcement. I received the report. Obviously, it's been very active. There's been a lot of things done. When did the code enforcement officer start inspecting drains? Grease drains?
traps.
Yeah,
We had him do that. We had him to do that. He's been doing it for 3 or 4 years, but we are switching that back to our sewer crew to do that. So we have Bill has been training the gentleman from the sanitary board to take that
how
back
many did
over.
he do?
How many inspections did he
Yeah,
do?
has he done?
Oh, I don't know. He's been going around to everybody. They all need, I mean, as he gets to them, they all need inspected.
Is that not a part of Terry Harlan's group?
No, we have to inspect those grease
Board of Health,
traps.
Huh?
We have to inspect those grease traps to make sure that they're not putting that into our sewer. Because we have big issues when a lot of grease get into our sewer.
I know when
lines.
I was in the school system, it was always inspected by the Board of Health. And it was
Well,
part
they-
of that sanitation report.
They may do that, but we, in the past, they have not done a good job on it, so we've had a lot of, we have issues with grease traps a lot.
I mean, I'm sorry, what? They inspected? My understanding, maybe only 2 businesses got the inspection
I think they had a list of restaurants.
in the last month or 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
And I-
had a list of restaurants. They were going to all of them.
And I hear what
As
you're
they
saying
could.
about the sewer system. And I guess the thing that would concern, sanitation guy was marvelous. I called him, there's a problem on Road Street where an individual does not have their washing machine into the system and it's running out, causing a problem for the neighbor. And of course, the sanitation, what's his name? I'm world's worst on me. Huh? No, local, our guys.
You mean for the health department?
No, here.
Oh, that. Right,
What?
Kyle.
Oh, okay. And of course, they went immediately, they looked at it. And I was told that it was a health department issue. And the health department has gone out, looked at it and sent a letter out the other day, giving 30 days. So that's why I was confused, where it
It-
looked like we were conflicting inspections with the health department.
No, it's in our ordinance, and if they need a grease trap, then I send a letter out and notify
Okay.
them that they need that.
So he wouldn't have any say over a washing machine not being in the system and draining into a neighbor's yard.
Not if it goes into,
Still out on the lawn, not in the sewer? Yeah, 3 days ago, it was still coming to the neighbor that was complaining. I hear what you're saying, you don't go what they tell you, but. No, but anyway, because Department of Health visited. And they put them on notice and they were to send a letter out, give them a 30-day notice to get it in the sewer. But I appreciate you guys going out there that morning. I do. May sound like I'm being sarcastic, but I'm not. Thank you. Thank you, Demita, for that explanation.
Beautification Commission.
I can report a little bit on that. We are working on, unless Kevin, did you have something for the beautification? The committee's going to work on the city parking lot, and so we are having the concrete that's in between the light poles painted yellow. And I'm not sure, do you know where he is on that? Because the cars are there, so that may have to be moved to an evening job, but so we're painting those yellow, and then they are going to stencil some designs on that, on the like of acorns and leaves, and just to spruce the parking lot up a little bit. And then maybe on the pavement in between buildings, on the road in between buildings, that may also, I guess we'll see how that turns out. And they're gonna talk to some building owners about maybe putting up a mural that you can come and have your picture taken in front of, how everybody has like the angel wings or the butterflies. So they're thinking of maybe a swing, and it looks like you're swinging. And so that's some of the things they're working on, as well as we're still working on the sign, the welcome sign. We had that piece of property surveyed. Have we gotten that survey? It should be coming. They finished everything. They just have to get that ready. So we want to make sure that we're getting the sign on just our property and not someone else's.
But we do hold the deed to that property.
Yes.
The other thing, I met with Mark Dove. And when Judy Lively she's back, but we get a chance to go out and talk to him. He possibly will allow a welcome sign and can allow if the county commission approves it, because there's something to do about fitting the number of signs. That he's willing to try to work with us to have a sign put there on his lot. So that's a plus. if it can happen.
All right, council comments, Ward 2.
Mayor, I have some street department. Usually he's here for questions or I have some questions or
yeah, I don't-
notations.
I don't see it on there.
Day's here. He's always available.
All right, I mean, it's not on here, but go ahead.
Right. I got a call from Mr. Lopez, Raymond. And right there at Thomas and Reiner, a big hole or something. I don't know, for patching. And they may have, okay. You're always ahead of me. Okay, thank you, thank you. The other thing, I don't know where this comes. I know where I think that right now, I think. Jones Avenue. Last time I talked about, because of a recommendation or request by a former council member, one side parking. Correct me, Demita, if I'm wrong, because you and I communicated that the Department of Highways said that that was always supposed to be no parking on Jones.
Well, he called me back and said that it was not, but that.
He
it's
was
up-
not correct?
It was not correct,
Okay.
but that it is up to us to decide how to do that. And that once we decide, he will have, he will come and work with us on moving the center line if we need to. I need to get the safety committee together for that. And we have not been able to
Do
get
you
that
have a
together.
date certain or time date or a target date as to
we
when
should-
this could be achieved?
We should be able to do it by next council meeting.
And I think it will eliminate a potential hazard if we take it off one side or the other.
Right. I'd like to take it off both sides, but I know that might not be convenient, so
I'll take a hit for recommending both sides,
I'll let the, I'll let the safety committee look at it.
but I think we
I haven't
better serve
talked-
one side.
I've talked to both chiefs, but maybe I haven't talked to you. Maybe I haven't talked to police chief, but we will all try to get together to make that recommendation.
I noticed nothing's been done on Lee Street yet, and that was brought up and discussed back under a former city manager. And they're still parking
And-
there on the corner. But there's no signs and no yellow been put up.
Right, so we
And I
still,
requested that
that's-
the last,
that's one of those odd problems with him,
with
that-
who?
with the owner, I mean, with the people that live there.
And I understand, but again, I hear what you say, but it's not an odd problem with us to put up no parking and paint it yellow.
Right, it's not. We just have to get all that worked out.
And like I say, it's been pending since a former city manager.
And
So
so
hopefully-
has Thompson, but
How'd you know what I was gonna ask next?
well, because I can read your mind.
That's bad. I'm kind of simple.
We have to notify those people that we're going to change it. And I've talked to several, they seem okay with it, but we're going to notify them and give them the opportunity to come to a council meeting. So
And that
I
was said
just
the
didn't
last
think
council
tonight
meeting.
would
Yes,
have
that
been-
was said last.
yes,
And I think, again, it's a matter of safety in terms of police, in terms of fire truck, in terms of ambulances and so forth, because it's like a maze down through there on both sides. It's a very narrow street, so you intend to proceed with that?
yes.
Truist parking. We got approval.
Yes, and that is on their list of things to do, the Public Works Department. It's on their list.
Do we have any ideas to a time period? Now that you're not going to be
It's-
pulling fence down. Pardon? Okay, okay, fine. I just want to be sure it's on the front burner and not on the back burner in case
It's,
I have to start coming to council meetings and
It's-
use my 3 minutes to question this stuff.
it's there.
Also, we had talked, it's been over a year, probably back about 20 when I first came on here about the Pino easement and the fact that DNR or someone was involved with possible pond on the Rock Church.
Yes, and so we don't think we'll need that easement.
I know you and I discussed that maybe we ought to have it in the back pocket just in case.
Okay. except I don't know what to put in the easement
Well, Mr. File, well,
until we have something.
I offered to go with
mean,
you to
with that-
talk to John, if I remember.
Right, and we talked to him and he wanted certain things, but
Right.
with the way we've changed that, we won't be coming, we're not going to be affecting his property.
Not in his property at all.
No, no, it'll all be at the church.
But I mean, coming down through there won't change any of the flow or banks or anything.
It'll, no, no,
Yeah.
it'll just hold that water and come through
You know, I hope we
slowly.
stay on top of that. I really
We
do.
will, we
Thank
will.
you. I appreciate that. I respect
Yeah.
your word.
They won't, they're not letting me forget about it.
Who-
The,
Who's not letting you?
the guys that are going to put it in.
Oh, okay. The pond
Mhm.
and the church is in agreement with that already too?
Yes, we'll have to get something from them that's more binding, but right now we have their word and
And we have your word that you're going to proceed.
yes,
If I'm not here. So like I said, I only use my
Yeah.
3 minutes every month.
yes, we're going to proceed with that.
Thank
That
you,
is
Brad.
in our, it's in our plans and budget
Thank you, Demita, seriously.
with our ARPA money.
Thank you, Day Day. That's what you suggested when we first started this. That that's what would be needed and it would be futuristic. He's patting you on the back there. You're getting accolades for him. You may not have voted yet.
All right, in Ward 2, any council comments?
Charlie, you got something? Okay. I've had complaints of tall grass in South Loop Drive area, Hidden Valley. And I noticed on the code enforcement's list, 3/4 of what he's dealing with is tall grass. Or how, are we keeping up with complaints? City cutting the grass?
They are.
Do we
they're
need to
mowing.
add on some people during the summer?
We do. We
I
have
talked about
4 extra.
I understand. I mow the neighbor's house next to me just so the city don't have to come down and mow it.
I
At
think
least
we had a
half of it.
mower down for a while too, didn't we, Day Day?
But
It's. No, and it, by the time we get the notices and give them 5 days, it's just,
Can't we
Again.
increase their fine? Like a
I mean,
lot?
we do, it
A
doesn't
lot.
matter.
a couple of
It
them are
doesn't matter
abandoned.
because they
So
don't
who
pay
can
them.
fine?
They don't pay them.
Then a lien goes on the property.
Lien goes on the property.
Back to what Steve said, and I suggested this the last time. Is there an age requirement, Day Day? Can they have to be 18 to operate a mower? And that may sound
Six-
crazy.
16.
16. So are there any funds available that would allow additional 16-year-old and above to be hired to assist with the situation?
That wasn't extra.
That's backfield. That's backfield.
We
But-
will have to see about our budget
Pick up
revision.
some of these.
that we
What,
do in
what do
July.
these guys make? What are we paying them?
$11 an hour.
So Day Day, what do you think? Would it help you?
We send them out, we're paying overtime wages plus for every piece of equipment.
I lost you on overtime. I'm sorry.
That's what we're billing.
No, I'm talking about additional youngsters. Oh, they get overtime?
If they work over 40, they have to have
Okay,
overtime.
but if you hire more people, would that lessen the need for overtime? I mean, I know private industry. So many mowers.
And
So you-
it takes all the time during the day just to get what we have to mow for our properties. That's what they're doing during the day. They're cutting the rail trail or all of the right of ways
And that's
and all the.
why I kind of agree with Steve. Maybe we need some more mowers and help.
We
And I
need-
know Steve
That's something we
mowed,
need to look at. We need to
Steve
increase
mowed the
that.
bank lot when it was mowed the last time.
Yeah, you have to have.
Okay. And that's what Councilman Janey suggested. Right?
Still wouldn't work.
So the person
We've done that
responsible,
before too.
so the person responsible for identifying them would be Mr. Light, correct? And he would be responsible for notifying them. And then it would go to court. But I say then it would go to court if they were fined. What is the fine?
It depends on how long it took them for the property. I mean,
Well,
to
give me
cut
some
it.
clue.
Well, we charge 30, is it 35 now?
Is that the fine or is that the cost for mowing?
We charge the cost for mowing. There's not a fine associated with it, but we will be able to do that once we've adopted this code, the international.
Oh, okay,
yes.
okay.
I would increase that 10 times.
Yeah, but I mean,
Or like my neighbor, they're not. gonna
here's an
pay.
invoice.
They're like my neighbor. I mean, I got a garbage pile up on the top of the hill from me and the guy don't work. You find him, what's he gonna pay?
Well,
There's an invoice that we did.
but I agree with Councilman Janey.
That's
If you
for-
don't try something,
1
I
yard.
understand.
I mean,
completely.
implement it, and then if they don't pay their fine, you're still right back to if they don't cut their grass, you're putting a lien on their property, which that's a state issue that needs to be addressed. But I hear Demita say that once this full-time person comes on, that it could be brought back for consideration for a fine in
Yep.
addition to a charge for mowing the grass.
But I mean, several of these are people that we can't find even. We don't even know. We just cut it. We post it and cut it and we don't know where
So
they
with
are.
that said, is there not a ordinance or something that there's a charge for unoccupied facilities?
There's a vacant
businesses?
structure ordinance, yes.
Does that pertain to houses?
Yes,
Yeah.
Huh?
yes, that's what it is. It's vacant
Okay.
structures.
And-
yes.
and
You circle,
businesses,
you
though.
circle right back around to, if you can't find them to make them cut their grass, you can't find them to make them pay that vacant ordinance.
But you can sure file that claim.
Put a lien
And at
against
some
it.
point in time, if the heirs or whoever will dispose of it, you get your money.
True.
Nothing
Mhm.
ventured, nothing gained, guys.
Yeah. And some people don't care. It's just a house that they don't want to have anything
I
to
mean,
do
it seems to me
with,
like we
so
make it rough on our businesses
maybe
and let
we'll tear it down
the
too.
indigenous slide. I mean, I'm just saying, I agree with Councilman Janey. We ought to attempt to do something to address it, to help.
To
A
make it
tool in the
safe.
toolbox that may help,
We will.
especially when we get this full-time building inspector and the other two.
We will, yes.
That's all I had to say on that issue.
But Mayor, I also wanted to say thank you to the city manager and Day street manager for starting on getting more streetlights in Minden.
Ah,
They look
Yeah.
awesome. And I've noticed that there is an old tree, part of it is fell near Jim Alshire's place, right there behind the old moose. Can we talk to DOH? It looks like they just piled it up against the back of the building and it's just laying right there on the side of the road. Can we get DOH or somebody to clean that up?
by leave of the committee, I'd ask that Mr. Alshire be allowed to speak.
So ordered.
Like the other day, I was going out stand up property over. It was late. They told me that as soon as the weather break, they didn't asphalt. As soon as the weather break, they would back.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Demita, do we have any more information on any type of FEMA assistance for Minden?
No, we do not.
What about our flood mitigation project?
And that, no, we had a meeting, with the people from the grant, the community development block grant. and from the National Flood Insurance Program, all those people that I met at the floodplain conference, we got together and talked about that, and they are unfortunately going to be asking for that money back. The money that we were granted for that, because the methods that we have to help Mendon will be, do not fall in the scope of the grant application. So they are going to ask to have that program opened up again for applications, and we can reapply. And they suggest that we reapply for separating the stormwater from our sewer, and that's one of the things that we can do, and use it for a plan to see what else we could do.
I'm very disappointed to hear that.
To help that.
$7 million to rework that creek or change the box culverts or something.
It's because of they said that they approved the application based on the design with the retention pond. And if it had been if we'd given them another method, that they may not have approved the funding. So it has to go back. We have to start from the beginning again.
I hate to hear that, but I hope that we stay diligent with it.
We will. Leslie Taylor was on that from Region 4. She was on the call with us, and we will be working on that.
So what are the other possible funds? I know, again, I go back to Mount Hope, Glen Jean, Kill Site. Airmark out of Washington.
One of the best things, well, there are different things, and Ben he's also a floodplain manager. So he has some thoughts on some of that. And one of the best things to keep the integrity of the community would be to raise a row of houses in that area. So we hope that we can maybe find some money for that. We might be able to do that if we reapply, because there is money for, there's not much money for buyouts, because that you can't use that property again. So they don't really like to give money for that, because it restricts the use of the property. But there is money for raising houses, and some things like that.
Also, last item is King Cole Chevrolet sold out.
I saw that they sold
It'll
today.
be Stevens Chevrolet. I'd like to welcome them. Chase
Yes.
Barton is one of the owners. Be great for Oak Hill.
They're not moving out, are they?
As far as the information I have, he plans to stay right where he's at.
Where he is? Okay.
He had over 100 cars lined up to move in for new inventory. Get the ball rolling, and
That'd be
Chase knows
good.
how to sell some cars, and he will be great.
When I
Great for
learned of
you.
that, I talked to Chase. GM was kind of inferring that they should find another location along the 4-lane. And when I talked to Chase, he said they're interested in selling cars. And I informed him of some of the break on B&O tax, that because of the takeover, that they may be entitled to that. And that prior to any decision, when he sat down with the city manager and the mayor to discuss, as Steve said, I'm glad they're planning on staying, but the facility's old. It's unusual for GM to approve it. And I think we need to do any and everything we can to ensure that King Cole stays in Oak Hill, West Virginia.
I think
he'll
he'll do some upgrades to the
Yeah, that's-
mechanic side of the business, the garage.
But as you said, it's his inclination to want to stay. And he just said they want to sell cars. They don't care where it is.
That's right.
Doesn't King Cole date back to the 30s, 1930s,
20s, I believe.
20s, even earlier?
Yeah, yeah. And they've been out there where they're at now since 76, I believe. when they
19,
moved out
what,
there.
35?
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was. That's what I asked. I thought it was 35. Well, okay, thank you. Anybody else on Ward 2?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
we were talking about meeting protocol.
presentation?
Mr. Fall was gonna look at that, I think. Did I send you that? I sent you those,
I
the
got
protocol, yes, that,
protocols and I understood that we'd wait till after the election for that. That's what Mr. Curry told me.
oh,
So
We-
I haven't done.
so we're
anything.
waiting until after the election.
We talked about it, and we talked about it in terms of a future council.
Right.
But Mr. Smallwood, in terms of what you're saying, there are other cities, and I got copies of, was it New Martinsville or who was it? That I shared with you, Demeter,
I can't remember.
and you talking about stringent. They are very stringent and very explicit as compared to what's here. But my discussion with Mr. Fowle was that it was acceptable for the mayor to produce them and make them. And probably may be better. Thank Mr. Fowle, and you can correct me. I'm sure you will, being an attorney, if the council adopted it. But in terms of it being acceptable, it's recognized in all bodies, legislature, city government, county government, that you do have protocols.
And we do have some protocol, we have that in our charter or ordinance that we probably need to adjust however council would see fit, if that's the way you go with that.
Yes, sir.
Now, everybody's talk about ethics committee, okay? Is there something that we could require councils to attend a workshop or session on ethics?
We are going, I am planning and with Rhonda, I need, of having some training sessions for the new council. And one of them will be on the Open Meetings Act. And that we'll have the Ethics Commission come in and speak. And then there's a workshop that I attended that I think would be good to have. It's an attorney from Rolls-Royce, and he talks about your role as council members, as board members. So that's 3 that we. can
Mr. Small, I
have.
have some information on the open meeting too from the Ethics Committee, two cases, plus their interpretations and so forth, that I'd be happy to make available to any council member.
Everybody has a tendency to call ethics committee, you know.
That's all right, that's good.
It's, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think if we had a class on it, we would know what they were talking about or threatening us with.
Yes, I mean, we can arrange that. Normally, when the Ethics Commission comes in, they talk about the Open Meetings Act and just some general ethics things, but they could get in. I mean, if you have questions, you could ask them specific questions.
I got it on speed dial.
All right, Ward 1.
Thing. So as most of you know, I start planning the rail trail in February, and I appreciate the street department, the police department, and the city for their support. This year was a crazy year, but I heard from lots of vendors that had a great year, and I thank you all for watching the trailers and helping the day of. It means a lot, so thank you.
Anyone else in Ward 1?
Mayor, I have a statement I'd like to read, please. I've already brought up my issues. I'd like this to be entered into the minutes. Regardless of the outcome of tomorrow's election, it has been my sincere privilege and honor to have proudly served citizens of the community as an educator for 35 years, a legislator representing our citizens in Charleston for 16 years, a member of the West Virginia State Board of Education for 2 years as the president, and a member of the Oakdale City Council since 2020. I am also proud of my calling as a member of the Calvary Baptist Church for 59 years. During my life of public service and work for the betterment of our community, I have passed many meaningful pieces of legislation, secured millions of dollars for projects within the 32nd Delegate District, as well as many forward-looking projects intended to benefit the city of Oak Hill. Unfortunately, a minority of negative thinkers and naysayers have chosen to distort, fabricate, and post half-truths and innuendos while totally ignoring the real issues facing the present and future well-being of our great city. I trust that the citizens of Oak Hill recognize what has occurred in the spinning of these distortions. I am grateful for the good and honest candidates with whom I've had the pleasure to campaign with in discussing our accomplishments in the past and hopes for the future. By working together in an open and honest manner, I am confident that we can indeed build a stronger and more prosperous city of Oak Hill. The problems with those who insist on negativity is that they bring nothing to the table other than their insistence in wanting to relitigate the past. Sometimes we need to understand the boat is already sailed and you can't ever unring the bell. I am proud of what we have accomplished in recent years for the betterment of our city, and I would ask that those accomplishments kind of be like the state of the state entered into the minutes as well. As such, I refuse to allow naysayers and malcontents to spin their distorted versions of the truth while trying to tear down and destroy what others have worked hard to accomplish. I will forever be grateful to the citizens and voters who have the absolute right to demand the very best from their elected officials. It's time for the people to speak. I thank you and I speak to your indulgence. And this certainly is not a conciliatory address, but who knows the outcome, but this may be my last time other than my 3-minute privilege to have a voice. So I thank you for your indulgence. And again, I ask this be entered into the minutes.
Anyone else in Ward 1? Comes to the mayor's comments. Sunday, I went to the memorial service for Councilman Oxley. And it was said at that memorial that he was a man of good humor, a man who liked to joke, a man who liked to laugh. And it reminded me of something that happened here at this council meeting a couple of years ago. Demita Johnson was a treasurer. She sat here. Bill Hannibas was here as the city manager. And it was a time of the COVID or coming out of it or whatever it was. And I always keep this at my desk. And I said, has anyone seen my alcohol? Tom Oxley said, oh, so that's why you act the way you do. I said, no, not that kind of alcohol. He said, sure. Well, I didn't realize it was a hot mic that when he said. So a couple of days later, I get calls from a couple of 3 people saying, so Tom Oxley's finally out at you that you sit there and drink at those meetings. I said, no, I was looking for this. I wasn't looking for a bottle of something. I was looking for my alcohol. But I remember him saying that, and he thought that was so funny. I never did tell him, though. I got calls later. I didn't want to let him know that I had that they really thought he had outed me as a drinker here at this meeting. Though sometimes it's maybe something to think about here sometimes, but no, not really. But that just reminded me of Tom Oxley, that little story when they mentioned it at what a kidder he was at the memorial service Sunday. And it just came to mind. Where's my alcohol? Are any future agenda items?
When is the canvas?
Next Wednesday?
The 21st,
At
June
what time?
21st.
At what time?
I would 5:30. Is it the same?
Well,
is
it's
that
going to
the time?
depend whether we have to count all of one ward. So if you
Oh.
count one ward, I'd like to have it earlier in the day.
That's what I'm asking you.
All right.
Well, I've gotten 2 different answers on whether we have to do the complete ward or just a percentage of it. So I do have to find that out before I can decide on what time we'll have the canvas.
And you're waiting on a response from whom? Secretary of State or the local clerk?
Well, I've talked to the local clerk and I've got 2 different answers. So I'm going to go ahead and research it further to see what
What
it
it
is.
is.
Yeah, what I need to do.
Yeah. You
Yes.
could, but yes. You're still a member.
Yeah.
We need council.
You need a quorum.
Technically,
You have to have a quorum, so you
Yeah.
take my spot.
we have to have a quorum.
Need 'em. The voting tomorrow, what time is it over?
7:30.
7:30.
Seven
We
thirty.
took care of the
And
ballot.
then-
With Diane, well, Diane was there too.
7:30.
At the ballot? Yeah, okay.
Where would
The-
where would they be counted at? Over at the courthouse?
No,
Or here?
They're gonna be counted at the intermediate school.
At the
It'll be
school.
printed out as soon as we feed all the ballots in. So I will send emails out to all the candidates with the total of the votes immediately after we finish.
can you come out and announce it like,
It's an unofficial, it'll be an unofficial total until the canvas.
can you
Then
come out and yell it to the people
well,
outside, waiting
Ring.
outside?
now,
Yeah, the
It'll,
bell.
it'll be on Facebook quick enough.
I don't do Facebook, so she'll have
She'll have to turn it.
to.
All right,
Glad you haven't been a victim.
with no other business before the
Can I-
city. Go ahead.
I'd like to say one more thing. As the mayor was talking about Tom, I just wanted to tell you, Day Day and I went out there one day. It's been a few, maybe 3 weeks ago. We were out there, and when we left, I said, well, Tom, give us some words of wisdom before you leave. And he said, well, I don't have any deep pockets of wisdom, but I just want you to know that it may not be as bad as you think it is. So just remember that. It may not be as bad as you think it is.
Tom Oxley will be deeply missed.
Yeah.
He surely will, yes.
With no other business before the city council for June 12th, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Amen.